Africans come here looking to us to be skin folk. They already got a deal, with the discrimination of being an immigrant, and then they look to black people for comfort, black Americans for comfort, and they don't get none. That is what you need to be focused on before you as a black person try to open your mouth against other groups of people of color. It's already disheartening to receive discrimination from everybody else who is not black. But when you look to your own people who are so far removed from their culture and you look to them for comfort and they treat you like dirt too, it's a different type of disheartening. Africans don't have to come here and help us advance our medicine, advance our skills. Goes back to the Gorilla Glue lady. Okay, an African doctor was the one who saved her hair. He used simple olive oil and some other natural ingredients to remove that glue from her hair. So the least that we can do when Africans come here is be way more kind and inviting to them instead of being so discriminating.
Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing fine. Now, there is a problem between Jamaicans, Africans, and Black Americans. Now, it is really boiling and things are getting out of hand. So let's have a look at this video, then have a quick reaction at the end of it. Thank you so much.
Most African Americans don't like to be called Africans. I tried to understand this in some of my studies, and I discovered that a lot of African Americans believe that Africa is a zoo. They believe that Africa is a forest. In other words, there are no houses, no roads, and no buildings in Africa. I don't know where they get this information from. But you see, we are all blacks, and there's no need trying to separate an African from an African American.
A lot of Africans don't understand the African American experience. I never knew until I came here and started learning the history of what happened here. Like all the way from the end of slavery, Jim Crow laws, redlining, the civil rights movement, the pipeline from the school to prison pipeline.
The prison industrial complex.
Yeah, like all of this stuff. I don't think Africans have an idea of all these things that are put against African Americans to become successful. Like even the Africans that are brought here, we're brought and we're put into like nicer neighborhoods. They don't put us in Southside Chicago in like the worst neighborhoods where you literally have to get a gun to survive,
My family members in the US, when they go to the bank to take a loan, they will be given a loan. But when their African American friends go there, to take the same loan, they will deny them, from having a loan. When it also comes to jobs, for example, just to apply some jobs, my African family, with African passport, they will give them some jobs, and then the African Americans, they know they will not be able to have the same jobs. So God bless this brother here for explaining these things, to the Africans who thinks that they are in the United States and they are better than African Americans, because of their hard works, they are there. As he said, from the time of slavery all the way to the Jim Crow era in the United States, not only that, but even today, the way the system is built, you as an African with an African passport, the system will favor you than the African Americans. Because of why? The system knows that first, you are not American, and then not only that, but they can also put a pressure on you, just like at your workplace, to do certain things, even you don't want to. Why? Because you do not want to lose your green card, or you do not want to lose your job, which might just put you at the risk of deporting you back to your home country. I have seen a lot of Africans, on the internet, talking about African Americans being lazy, being this, being that, if you think because of your hard work you are in the US, why don't you sit your ass in Africa, to work hard to get what you are having right now in the US? But no, because you can't make it in Africa because of the way our system back home here also is not enough jobs for people, not only jobs, but you, for example, who is from a minority family, let's start with, you will not have the chance, to be able to do something here because it's not about what you know, it's about whom you know. The same system is in the United States put in place for the African Americans, So I want to see all of you black Americans, I want to see all of you black Africans, to work together, to know that we are all families, I am Africans. And then it hurts me a lot that by seeing Africans on the internet in the United States, trying to bully the African Americans, taking them as lazies, or taking them as they don't work. But this is what happens, if you do not learn your history, and not only that, you also think that white man is God, Trust me, so many of African people are brainwashed to believe in this, Sadly, we even have leaders right now in power who are working for the same people who are oppressing the African Americans in the United States. The same people, our own leaders in Africa, are also oppressing us. You know, these people in the United States, these black Africans who think like this, they just think the same as some of our leaders here right now who are working with these Western powers to oppress the black peoples in general. So I said, it's time for you Africans, you know, who thinks like this to come on the table, to know that African Americans are our family members.
We already know that there are 54 countries in Africa and 3,000 acknowledged tribes, right? Anything outside of that, we don't know. I realized on the video that I just posted 2 days ago that already got over 500,000 views that the Africans in there again wanted me to say that Bantu knots came from the Bantu people. The video was never that deep. Because see, in Jamaica, we call those Chinese bump. In Trinidad, they're called something else. In Antigua, they're called something else. All over the world, they're called something else. And I guarantee in those 3,000 tribes in Africa, they're called something else. I'm just not sure why y'all like to argue about stuff. Because the point of the video, again, was never about where Bantu knots originated from in Africa. They literally were in the comment section talking about Bantu knots. They're not even called Bantu knots. Imagine you're walking around America saying, hey, can you put some, I don't know what y'all call it in Africa, in my head. Who is going to know? That's not their language. That's not their language. In America, it's called Bantu knots. And can you imagine Bantu people, Bantu knots? So either way, the name of the people still in the name that they use in America. Now in Jamaica, that name is not in there at all. We call it Chinese bump. I just don't know why y'all pick a fight and argue about everything. It'd be so unnecessary. I just feel like y'all think we don't know the history of Africa. Now that I realize that that's a community that's easily offended, I'll do my best moving forward that if I just wanted to come on here and say something quick, God forbid it's about a Jamaican hairstyle, I just need to reference where it came from originally, so on and so forth, because nothing can be just simple, easy, get to the point, and then people do their independent research or start an argument. So a lot of things you can search on the internet and educate yourself, and a lot of things common sense.
Thank you for this comment, because the intersection of classism, racism, and colorism in Jamaica is a much needed topic. And one of the things that I learned when I started looking into the history of all this is that integral to the whole concept of Jamaica's development post-colonialism was that we not talk about it. Do you understand? It was conditioned. It was a conditioning of the people to not discuss this. All the research on race in Jamaica talk about this silent topic that everyone knows, like everyone knows that this is happening and no one talks about it. And that's why anytime the issue comes up, you will see a whole bunch of people say, this has nothing to do with racism. This is an American thing. We have classism, yes. We have colorism, yes. But there's no racism here. A bunch of people are running up and are not understanding the intersectionality that is going on. Classism, racism, and colorism are intertwined in Jamaica. One does not exist without the other. And they are all the children of white supremacy. They are all born out of white supremacist culture that was handed down to us through colonialism. It took the United States more than 150 years after independence to have its racial reckoning with the civil rights movement in the 1960s. Jamaica has not yet had its racial reckoning. We have not yet gotten to the point where the majority of the people who are being marginalized, the people who are being denied access to the resources of the country they call home, the people who every day are subjected to the ills of racism, classism, and colorism in Jamaica. We have not yet gotten to the point where these people en masse are prepared to stand up for their rights against the minority non-black elite. But I strongly believe that a racial reckoning will happen in Jamaica. It may not happen in my lifetime, but it has to happen, because only for so long will a peoples endure oppression. And I believe we're still being oppressed. And just as African Americans stood up in the 1960s and said, enough is enough, I firmly believe that this day of reckoning will come to Jamaicans one day.
Before I say anything, I want to say I'm in no way am I coming for the Black American community. I'm never going to do that. So, one of the popular opinions I saw from the Black American videos is that Africans think they're better than them. I'm going to start by debunking that fact. In no way are Africans better than Black Americans. Africans who came out of Africa old enough that have the African culture in them are just that confident. So they might radiate that energy, but that in no way, any African saying that is wrong. We're not better. But the fact remains that an African will be considered faster for a job in the field of STEM, tech, health sciences in America faster than a Black American. Yeah. A Black American rules the world of entertainment, fashion, and music, all those ones. Yeah. In America, Africans might be good in their own country, but when it comes to America, Black Americans win. Afrobeats is coming up, but we don't want to go there now. Another thing I keep hearing from Black Americans is the excuse that we are taught this way. This is all we know about Africans. I mean, Africans, we know a lot about the USA not because USA is that influential. USA is influential, yeah, but we know about USA because we are interested, because we research a lot. The same way we know USA, we know UK, we know Germany, France, Japan, China, India. We know all these places because we are interested, we research. So it sounds dumb when a Black American comes and say, don't you live in thatched houses? Don't you live in huts? Don't you train cows and goats? So I see it like you telling me you dumb, that you can't do research. You understand? So another popular misconception is that African Americans think Africans hate them because of insults. No. An African who came here old enough, like me coming here old enough now, is not going to be offended by you saying black booty scratcher or anything like that. That doesn't affect me. If you call me, I call you back, like literally, like we're both black, we both you understand? I don't even find it offensive when a white man calls me nigger. Like, you call me nigger, you nigger too, because I did not die. You did not beat me, you did not hit me, I was not physically harmed. You calling me nigger doesn't mean anything to me. I can call you nigger too. I don't know what nigger is. I don't know my ancestors, you don't know my ancestors. So I don't know why we keep going around about this thing, you understand? Why Africans are detaching themselves from Black Americans is mostly for the violence, not for this insult. We come from a very, very peaceful place and we deal things with our fists, and I'm sure Africans will still defeat in the fist fight. But when it comes to this, I've gotten threatened many times. After work, I'm going to shoot you, I'm going to do this to you, I'm going to do that. That is the reason why every sane parent doesn't want his child to associate, because death is real. Like, it's gone, it's dead. Otilo, you understand? That's it.
Hello everyone. Now, there is a problem in Black American, and there is a problem more specifically in Jamaica and in Africa. This problem has been ongoing for the longest time, and I feel like this is the right time to address it, because things have been happening. We tend to assume because it's human nature. We've been doing this over and over again, but we let our people suffer, and we let the young generation who have nothing to do with this come inherit the same problems, and the problem still continues. So, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, let me address the feud that is between Jamaicans, African Americans, and mostly Africans. Now, you've heard of stories of Africans having hatred towards people living in the diaspora, or Jamaicans not wanting to associate with themselves with people in the US, Canada, UK, or any other place in the US. Now, is this true, or are these rumors, or are these just stereotypes built around to disrupt black people from the unity that Malcolm X and other great leaders foresee in their struggle to make sure that black people become one nation? Now, first, we must know who propagates these lies, or this propaganda, or this news that black people are not in good terms with their brothers in the US, in the UK, Canada, Australia, or anywhere else in the world. Now, before we continue, you must know that there is an enemy that hunts the unity of black people, an enemy that does not want to see black people making it in life. Now, I have been talking about the history of black people and of black Americans, that with time, Malcolm X in 1963, in one of his very last interviews, he said that there comes a time when black people will unite, and that will be the collapse of white supremacy. Now, this is not far from the reality, because we've been seeing black people trying to unite. We've been seeing the fight is ongoing in Africa, that we've seen in West Africa, people like Ibrahim Traore, the president of Burkina Faso, said no to French army. He said no to the ambassadors of the white countries in that very West African country. He said that we have been dominated for the longest time, and this is the time we should get real independence. And for that, now they've painted his name in a bad way, that he's a dictator, that Africa is a very democratic continent and every African state should have a democratic leader. And that's one notion I feel like that has eroded our sovereignty, that has eroded our development, because one, all these democratic leaders that we have in Africa are their puppets. Because at the last time I checked, the West still continues to rule over the black continent, that even after taking our brothers and sisters to go and work in their farms, in their corn farms, in their sugar plantations in South America, they are still coming to rule us, to take the gold that remained, to take the little that they had left behind in our continent, because they drained everything. They drained our peace, they drained our sovereignty, so we have nothing to be proud of. And it is the same media in the US, the same media in the UK, that is still propagating lies that there are feuds between black people in Africa and those ones in the diaspora, so that those in the diaspora will not be having the will not be having the wish to come back to their motherland, and those ones in Africa will never wish for black Americans to come back home, because there is a notion that black Americans are very disrespectful to African lads who stay in this continent, or to their brothers and sisters who stayed in this continent. Is it not the same media that tells black Americans that, you know what, those people who remained in Africa, the one who sold you to this other part of the world? Now, the last time I checked, black Americans, or our black brothers and sisters in the diaspora, were sold around 300 to 400 years back. Tell me any single man who still lives after 400 years. Who is 400 years old in Africa right now? No one. So it is the sin our grandfathers, our grandmothers, our great grandfathers did. And we've always said we are sorry for that. That our brothers and sisters should come back to the Caribbean, that they should come back to Africa, because our unity is whatever is going to actually save us from the racism that we face, from the economic sabotage that we've been facing all this time, from the social integration that we've seen over time. So I'm here today to tell you that rubbish any news that Jamaicans and Black Americans are having feuds. Differences must exist where 2 or 3 more brothers stay. And when differences exist, it does not mean that there is hatred between them. You can't agree on everything. Sometimes we have to disagree to agree. And sometimes we agree later on to disagree on some things. If the world was a monopoly of ideas, we couldn't be having all these achievements around, because we could have been going with the same idea over and over again. Some ideas have led to failure, and some idea have led to success. So sometimes some people have to disagree with the failing ideas just not to deprive the success that was to be achieved by good ideas. So that's why we have ideological differences that will always arise when 2 or 3 more brothers come together. Now, they tell you that Black Americans and real Africans here in the continent are not going together, like they are not very much compatible, or those ones in Jamaica and in the Caribbean. Did you ever ask them if the white people in the US and those one in the UK are really compatible? Have you ever asked them why the white people in Russia are not compatible with those ones in Ukraine? So, brothers and sisters, it does not really mean that when 2 people disagree, they hate each other. We might disagree on a couple of ideas, but this really means that we are growing mentally and we are expanding the way we think, that we do not have to have a monopoly of ideas in a given or in a context of in a context. So this is just to let you know that it is not true whatever they say, that there is so much tranquility, there's so much peace between the Black Brotherhood. Thank you so much for having taken us in to watch this video. I appreciate you so much. Let's keep on grinding the peace that we have. Let's not destroy whatever our forefathers had started. Thank you so much.